And hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. So today I'm joined by Mhinbron, and we're going to be saying some word talks about the game, about some of the games he's made. So, hello, Mhinbron.
Hello, I am Mhinbron. I am the lead developer at Colorgrave. We've released a game called Prodigal and are currently working on a game called Curse Crackers.
Okay, so yeah, there goes. We got that for the introduction. So, no, Minbron, when did you first discover video games?
Oh gosh, I started playing video games the first time probably at my aunt and uncle's lake house. I played, I think it was Super Mario World 3 or something. That was a grand old time, but loved them. Never owned them until Nintendo 64 came out. I was able to get my hands on one of those and have been a hopeless addict ever since.
Okay, and what would you say is your favorite game or games growing up?
Probably Warlords Battlecry 2 or Sonic Adventure 2 or Dark Cloud. One of those three probably.
Okay, and what would you say is your favorite game and or games now?
Hmm. This is going to be a terrible answer, but probably the same games. I don't get I don't get out much. So, when I go to play something, I want to make sure that it's something I enjoy because I don't get a lot of time to play games anymore.
Yeah.
So, um, I generally just kind of go back to the old faithfuls because I don't want to go put 2 hours into some game and be like, wow, this is garbage. I'm good. So,
Okay. So, let's just pretend for a few blissful moments that we're not living through the lamest kind of apocalypse right now. And, let's just say we're at a convention like PAX or something similar, and, a passersby walked by, your hypothetical prodigal booth. What would be the elevator pitch you'd give him to like get him hooked right away?
so we actually did a con at the end of last year. I think it
Oh,
was in November. And we showed off Curse Crackers and Prodigal. And so with Curse Crackers, we didn't have to say a word. We just had screens up with, the first level playing and the music playing, and people would stop and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna pick up this controller," and then start asking you questions. The problem is Prodigal doesn't quite have that same draw,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't really have an elevator pitch for him. We sell it to people by saying, "Yeah, it's a adventure puzzler game, and it's got all sorts of little side quests and secrets to discover. But if you harken or if you long for those old Game Boy Color adventure games like the Oracle of Seasons games, Oracle of Ages, it's gonna be right up your alley." So.
Okay. So yeah, I'm looking at your Twitter page for Curse Crackers right now, and I see it's like you're right on. You're very accurate describing it as Game Boy Color games. It looks kind of like it reminds me the most of like the very first Shantae game. So was that a deliberate look from like for both Prodigal and Curse Crackers, or did you like sometime in the development realize that making it in like this sort of visual style would be the easiest for you and your team?
We deliberately went with the Game Boy Color type look because the lead pixel artist and I are definitely nostalgic towards it.
Mm-hmm.
I for one really liked some of the older games with how clean the art was because things looked a lot simpler, yes, but what was shown was what was necessary. There wasn't all this extra frou frou and hoo ha going on the screen to distract you or confuse you. Like you play some of those open world games
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know what's window dressing and what's something you need to pick up without it being outlined with some ugly glow effect, which, I mean, they're working with what they got. I understand that. But to me, what's nice about this style and format of game is like this what's on the screen is generally something important. It's something that's trying to be told to you because we're not wasting development time or your time with something that's pointless.
Okay, and yeah, you mentioned that you mentioned like the Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages games as inspiration for Prodigal. Are there any other games that you'd say definitely 100% like contributed to like the overall like style like visual and gameplay presentation of like Prodigal and Curse Crackers?
With Prodigal, I think a lot of it was like Oracle of Seasons and then kind of what I wanted games to be back then. Like when I was a kid, stuff that was like, oh, why isn't this a thing? Or why is this character a one-off that only has this one little text line? They seem interesting. Why can't I do more? Like in I hate to use an example of the Oracle games because we already established it's an inspiration, but you had like the little bow girl,
Mm-hmm.
the Sumbrosian with a bow, and you could take her on a little date and talk to her and stuff, but you never really delved into who she was as a character. She didn't really go much further beyond that, which, I thought she was cool and always wanted to see more of her. So that was one of the motivations there. I think Curse is a number of the same sort of things of we had a cool idea and we wanted to springboard off of stuff that we played as kids and give it the little touches and things that we thought would have been fun back then.
Okay, and yeah, so like how since Prodigal's out and Curse Crackers is coming out soon, like how like do they play, like what is the gameplay difference between the two?
Well, Prodigal's a top-down adventure puzzler like the old Zelda games,
Mm-hmm.
and Curse Crackers is more of a adventure platformer, kind of like Kirby or Mario, but you have a little bit of the hidden object finding and character progression of. I mean, I'm hesitant to say like a Metroidvania title, because it's not that extensive, but like
Mm-hmm.
you're collecting certain things that unlock your ability to do different things in other levels. So it kind of has those elements in character progression, but uh, I certainly wouldn't attribute it to such. Like Shantae, how you would go seamlessly from area to area, and you have that sort of progression. Whereas we're um, separated between like stages and passive zones. Those passive zones being like cities or buildings, and the levels being your classic sort of here is your start point, here is your end point, go.
Okay. And how long from like idea to finished product did it like roughly take you and your team to make Prodigal?
Prodigal we did in 8 months, and then we did post release support with free content updates. The content updates we did over the course, I think, of an additional 8 months.
Oh. And when Curse Crackers is released and everyone's a buying it and a playing it, like how long how long will it have taken like in total like development time?
We've fiddled with like designs and some of the world development on this world for um, before we started on Prodigal. Actually, we'd fiddled with it, but we didn't really have anything concrete in terms of gameplay or design. Just like visuals and some of the like lore behind it. Uh, so I'm not sure how I would count it. When we started this, it was. Let's find out. We'll discover together. Probably sometime around last. Let's go to my. Because we'd worked on it maybe a month before that. So we've been working on it for like 6 or 7 months, probably. So we're gonna wind up with another game for 8 months of work, and then we'll probably do post game support on it as well.
Okay. And do you and your team like see like sticking like to the overall like aesthetic, like Game Boy Color aesthetic, like for a while, or are you like interested in trying other types of like presentation?
Um, for now, we're probably going to stick to that kind of aesthetic. We might cheat more or less on certain projects depending on like how we feel. We might do different artistic styles within that kind of visual framework, but I think for now, based on where we are as a team, I think
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna stick in that sort of an arena for a while.
Okay. And during like both Prodigal and Curse Crackers development, has there been like aspects of the game that like have proven to be like difficult, or just like overall not as smooth like a time as you would have liked?
Well, I don't think at any point game development ever feels particularly smooth, at least in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a good time and do a good job working together as a team, but unfortunately, nothing's set in stone until it's released, and even once it's released, you still have the ability to improve it and make changes. So, like to this day, I'm still making patches and updates and adjusting things in Prodigal, and that's been out for almost a year, well, a year plus at this point. So um, I think you're always going to be learning and you're always going to be trying to improve stuff. I think it's just a pitfall of the job.
Okay. And has there been like a part of like these two games development that you found like has gone like surprisingly much easier than like you initially thought?
Uh, with both games, we kind of worked and plodded along for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had a moment of wow, I think this is bad or needs adjustment, and then I'll make some pretty big changes and adjustments, and suddenly the game feels a lot better and everyone's happier. Just is a lot of reset on work. Uh, so I think that overhaul moment is generally when things feel pretty good because you've spent so much time like plotting through and experiencing like different ideas and mechanics, and I hate this but I like this, so then I'll redo everything and fixate on this like general idea. I think I lost track of what the original question was and started talking about something else, to be honest.
That's fine. And yeah, are there any other types of like, I know you said you're gonna like stick with this type of visual style for a while, but are there any like different like types of gameplay you would like to see in like a future title somewhere down the road?
A different type of gameplay I'd want to do in a future title.
Yeah.
I have always said and will continue to say I want to make an RTS. I loved those games growing up. They were awesome, but it will be a heck of a long time before I have the opportunity to. So until then, I'm just gonna settle for making an RPG one of these days. And that's gonna be a real treat.
Okay. And currently Prodigal is on Steam, and I'm assuming Curse Crackers will follow suit. Do you like when the opportunity presents itself? Like, are there any other like gaming platforms you'd like really like to see these two on?
Uh, we would like to put it on to other platforms. That bridge is going to be crossed once Curse Crackers is out. It's
Mm-hmm.
just we just need to make sure we continue producing content and getting games out there. So we needed to get into a point where we felt like we could coast for a minute and set stuff up for uh, the different consoles, because that's a whole nother mess and a half to get things ported over. So, and that's, time. If we're making a game every 8 months and the process to getting a game ported over takes a number of months, well, that's a number of months we're not spending making our next game that's going to be producing income to keep people fed. So it's unfortunately not just a hit put on Switch button. So
Okay. And hmm, let's see. Like if you ever come across any like fellow indie devs who are are or soon approaching like roughly where you're at in terms of like game making, is there any like sort of advice you'd like to give them that you would have liked to have had when you first started out?
uh for project, well, I am not in any position to be giving advice because I am not like some big name, big success or anything like that. I'm just a dude trying to make games and give people a good time. But with that in mind, if I was to give anyone advice, it's don't start a project that's going to take more than a year uh, for a long while, because it is so easy to get into development hell as an indie. It is so easy to get just stuck on an idea and just constantly reiterating and never getting anything out, and suddenly it's 4 years later and you can't even go into early access. So, and you also
Okay.
have to go and expect accepting the fact that it is a job and it does have some very unpleasant times
Mm-hmm.
associated with it. So
Well, all right then. And yeah, I guess with that we can bring this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast to a conclusion. I would like to thank Mhinbron of Colorgrave Games for joining me and saying some word talks about about their one released game and their one upcoming game.
thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Yeah, and yeah, if these games sound like your kind of thing, you can go to Steam right now and buy Prodigal, which is available for $9.99 or whatever your equivalent to $9.99 is, depending on where you live. And yeah, keep it and keep an eye out for Curse Crackers because it's definitely my thing. And if you like the Game Boy Color type stuff, then this will probably be your thing too. And Minbron, before we finish closing it out, is there anything you would like to shamelessly plug?
Please buy Prodigal and wishlist Curse Crackers. Thanks very much.
All right then. And if you enjoyed this and you would like to, hear more of it, please subscribe. Yeah, subscribe, like, comment, and all that. Let me know if this has been, a good series of word talks with Minbron or a bad series of word talks with Minbron. Yeah. Um, and and after you're done going to Prodigal, which you should do right now, and buying it, if you have any money left over, you can go to patreon.com/thepumpkincoptercast and maybe throw a spare dollar my way. And For as little as $1 a month, you can submit questions for me to use in future interviews. And yeah. So thank you all for listening. And as I say, this has been the Pumpkin Copter Cast. And as I say at the end of every show, have a gourd day, everyone.
The quality joke. Top tier. Well done.